You know how we think that once we finally get the freedom, the money, the life that we prayed for, that everything will finally just fall into place. And we were all told that idea. But no one really tells you what happens inside of you when you actually get it. Because the truth is, the real shift doesn't happen on the way up. It hits the moment you finally get everything you were chasing for. And from there, there's only one of two directions. It's either you get closer to God, or you try and become a god yourself. And most people don't even realize which direction they're drifting into because they only notice when life gets a little bit quiet and everything slows down and you can finally sit with yourself. And the thing is, who you become once you finally get what you prayed for, that's the part that decides the rest of your life. And if you don't pay attention, you can have everything that you desire on the outside, but still feel lost and empty on the inside. Let's dive in. Now, success itself isn't a bad thing. There's a lot of people that are doing amazing things with the success they had, the businesses they build, the services they provide, all that good stuff. But you have to understand that people chase success for different things. And a lot of the times it's either because of childhood pressures. Let's say you grew up in a culture that really pushed you to go to school, get educated, get a job, like just make something out of yourself. And I know a lot of West African cultures, Asian cultures, especially Indian culture, are really rooted in success and education, things like that. And also other times you can see people chase success because they grew up in a household that wasn't the most financially stable. They went through uncomfortable times. So there's that push as they get older to make sure that they never repeat or experience that life that they did when they were a child. And then there's another category of people that are trying to fill some type of insecurity or this void that they have in them. And they think chasing success, chasing money, is finally gonna give them some type of validation and fill that emptiness that they have. So what ends up happening for those individuals is that they tie their image to their success. So it's almost like they become attached to it and it feeds their ego in a sense.
What happens is after a while, you start, I guess your ego goes nuts and you say like, I can do anything.
And things like money and status always feels good in the beginning because it's like an instant drug. It's a great high. But what happens is that we're trying to pour water in a bottomless pit. And no matter how much water you pour into that pit, it's never going to fill you up. And a lot of people in society run into this issue where things that are man-made or vanity in general, objects, whether it be cars or luxury houses or things of that nature, they think that it's going to fulfill them. But what ends up happening is it can never fulfill you because of the fact that it's man-made. So we ourselves are spiritual beings, and you have to realize that only spiritual things can fill us up. That thing, if you're relying on that vain object or vanity or whatever that is you're chasing to give you fulfillment long term, you better think again because it's not gonna last long. As I mentioned earlier, once you finally made it to the top, there's only two directions you can go from there. Is either you get closer to God or you try and become a god yourself. And what ends up happening is when you think that you're a god yourself, it's because, again, you fed your ego so much that now having some sense of control, being able to control people becomes the new desire. You become so self-reliant, you stop seeking guidance from others, and you start to think that you are just one untouchable person. And you can look at Diddy as an example. Like when he was so far gone with the whole freak offs and the coercion that he charges that he had, and just the sense that he felt like he could manipulate and control people, blackmail others as well. And look where he's at right now. Once you're so far gone like that, you start to treat your own power as law and absolute. So nobody can tell you otherwise. And you can take Elon Musk as an example. For the case of Elon, what stands out is how the pursuit of control and power takes over when success becomes your identity. So he stepped into a role with Donald Trump's administration to lead the Department of Government Efficiency. And officially, he was his advisor. But in practice, he had a massive influence over staffing, policy cuts, and agency control. Now, fast forward to now, he's not a formal cabinet member anymore, and his role has shifted back toward the private sector. But he still remains a close friend and advisor to Trump, so somewhat still has access to power and influence and control. Now, as I said earlier, it's either you become a god yourself or you take the second route and become closer to God in the process. Now, for those that get closer to God, it's either because they were already walking with him from the get-go, or they achieved success and they had like a coming to Jesus moment where they saw the light at the end of the tunnel and became humbled by the chaos that they were going through and found some type of contentment and happiness and joy and peace in walking with God. And Justin Bieber is a perfect example of this. He reached a level of fame most people will never even understand. But after a while, he had everything, the money, the attention, the lifestyle, but it broke him. He talked about how empty he felt at the top and how the pressure and the constant noise pushed him into anxiety, depression, and pretty much self-destruction. And that's what really forced him to slow down and start to reflect and turn closer to God. So he really had to rebuild himself from the inside out. And when you look at his story, it really shows you how success really exposes everything that you were hiding from in the beginning. And how sometimes your breaking point is what finally draws you into something real. Now, his walk with God isn't perfect, but at least he's making constant progression every day, especially now that he's a new dad and, married. So his priorities in life is safe to say it's shifted drastically over the past couple years. At the end of the day, success really magnifies how you are as an individual. So if you are someone that was generous and served people, it's only by default you become that once you finally reach the top. Now, if you were someone that was always manipulative, egotistic, crazy, that will be magnified on a grand scale when you're at the top. And without a higher power grounding you in some way, your character really becomes distorted. And that's why you see somebody like, Justin Bieber go through a phase where he was humbled by everything going on and he had to rebuild himself and practice stillness and prayer and just reconnecting and having better alignment with God, because he experienced everything, the world had to offer, and it brought him chaos and destruction as a return. Now, for you personally, wherever you are at the journey, it's never too late to always reflect on where you are now. It's very easy to check somebody, especially like after you've lived quite a number of years on earth. You've had to check one or two people at some point in your life, but not a lot of people sit down, look at themselves in the mirror and check themselves. And I mean highlight the good, the bad, the ugly, all the things that we are afraid to really sit with and face head on. And if you're going through a phase where you're realizing that there's a lot of chaos, there's a lot of disorder, I don't feel fulfilled, I don't feel happy, I feel stressed, anxiety, all that stuff. If that is you right now, it's really time to find alignment again. Alignment with God, being connected to the Creator, having accountability in your life, reevaluating, what your purpose is and how you can use that to really serve those around you, regardless of where you are in your journey. Because no matter how successful you are, if you don't have God in your life, is it all really worth it? Now, drop down in the comment section below and let me know which part of this video really stuck out to you. And feel free to join the Discord, where we have in-depth conversations. It's a great little community where we can connect and have mentally stimulating conversations with fellow growth-minded individuals. And join me on the next video. Until next time.